Still in California.
So coast to coast. So we're going to go ahead and start
Are we? Okay. Yes, we are.
because this is a relatively long one.
It is long. It is a Rupert Spira.
And again, it takes a little while to get used to Rupert's cadence. He's British. And it's like listening to Monty Python. You kind of miss the first 10 minutes until you tune in the accent.
And then you got it.
And he tends to really be very slow in terms of his cues. So you find yourself wanting him to speed up. But some of us Southerners are kind of used to that. We take our time when we speak as well. So lay back, sit back, get yourself comfortable, and enjoy the trip. This is about letting everything fade into being. And being is an interesting state. We've talked some about it. It's a state that's associated with being in, no pun intended, um, in the state of connection with awareness itself. When we let go of thought, when we have direct perception of reality, there's an emotional state that's associated with it too, that only happens in those nonverbal periods. And that's why we very seldom experience the things that being encompasses, like bliss, like union with life, like a feeling of spaciousness or freedom, but they're not thought formed. They're not formed. They come from that direct perception of awareness. So he's going to very skillfully guide us into that place, and hopefully you'll get there. And if you don't, that's okay. There are people who meditate for years
Just stay
before
with
they're
them. There's
finally
no right or wrong.
right. There's no right or wrong, or nothing. But to begin to get a feel for how to approach that in your experience, what to look for, what's significant, and what you can let go of. So
You know what I like to say right quick. There's nowhere to get to, but you might go somewhere.
yeah, you're definitely going to go somewhere.
Good.
So
This one is 50 minutes. So you'll want to make yourself comfortable. It's okay if you have to move or shift in midstream, but your comfort level could enhance your experience. So just that. And you ready? All right, here we go.
Infinite aware being has contracted or seems to have contracted into a temporary finite mind. That is each of us. Just as the vast physical space of the universe seems to have contracted into the tiny space of this room. And as a result of this apparent contraction, there is a tension that lives in the hearts of all people. A tension that seeks one thing alone: to be relieved of the limitations of this apparent contraction to return to its natural state of equilibrium, freedom, sufficiency. The desire or the impulse to be relieved of the dissatisfaction of this tension or contraction is what we know and feel as the search for happiness. And everybody, all 8 billion of us, are primarily engaged in this search for happiness. Initially through the acquisition of objects, substances, activities, relationships, and so on. But some of us grow weary of this search. And this includes all of us here. The conventional objects, substances, activities, and so on that are on offer in the world fail to relieve us of this tension, this seeking, this dissatisfaction. So we turn to more refined means. We rebrand the search for happiness, the search for enlightenment, or the search for union with God. And this is just a refinement, a rebranding of the same search, the same impulse to be relieved of this tension. Our methods are a little more refined. Meditations, practices, disciplines, yogas, teachers, traditions, and so on. But all with the same end in mind. To be relieved of this wound, this tension. To be returned to our natural condition of wholeness, freedom, sufficiency, peace. And many of us find that in spite of years, if not decades of practice in the religious or spiritual traditions, and in spite of our genuine understanding of our true nature, there is a residue, a sort of core existential dissatisfaction that remains has not completely dissolved in spite of our genuine understanding and our years of effort and practice. And I am presuming that this is the case for many of us here. I imagine that almost everyone, if not everyone, here has been on some kind of spiritual path before coming here. If I'm wrong, please let me know later. And that we have come here because this core existential dissatisfaction still lingers. Still prevents us from being entirely at peace and quietly joyful, irrespective of our circumstances and condition. Many of us find that we have practiced everything: meditation, self-inquiry, yoga. We've been to many teachers, explored many traditions, had many genuine insights and recognitions. And at some point we come to this a kind of crisis. We've done everything. We've explored everything. We've been to all the teachers. There's nowhere else to go. There are no other avenues that could accommodate our search. And yet our search has not yet come completely to an end. There is this recognition, whether we formulate it to ourselves or not, that the separate self cannot undo itself. Anything that the apparently separate self may do is predicated on the belief and the feeling that that separate self is a real entity, real in its own right, and therefore perpetuates the illusion of separation. our
The question I have, I say it at the beginning, if not, it has no sense, is that I feel that I am at a empty point in my life, and
Okay.
I'm sorry, people. The tape froze.
That's not it either.
Let's just go ahead and I'll finish the meditation.
I don't think it's frozen. I think he's being quiet.
No, because it wasn't running. The numbers weren't changing, sure. So let's just go ahead with the meditation.
I sometimes use the analogy of a white kitchen tea towel that becomes grubby and stained with use. And although we put it through the washing machine several times, some of the stains are persistent. No amount of washing will dissolve them. All we can do is leave the tea towels soaking in warm, soapy water. It is this soaking that gradually dissolves these residual stains. The washing machine cycles are like all the practices, the years of effort and practice and disciplines that we undertake, all of which clean the cloth. But this residual longing that prevents us from being completely at peace is like the residual stain. We cannot wash it out, we cannot force it out, we cannot practice it away. It is this self-soaking, self-resting, self-abiding, which gradually, effortlessly, without our even noticing it, dissolves this last residue of becoming. And leaves us in the peace of being. What does the space in this room need to do in order to liberate it from the limitations of the four walls within which it seems to be contained? Absolutely nothing. It is already free. It is already the vast space of the universe. What do you need to do in order to liberate yourself from the qualities of experience with which you seem to be mixed and identified? Absolutely nothing. You are already free. You are already at peace. You are already fulfilled.
It came up in the meditation yesterday, and then
That there is infinite being and numerous finite beings. It's like saying there is the vast space of the universe and lots of individual spaces within each building. The finite cannot coexist with the infinite. There is just the infinite, and you are that without being you. Many traditions and teachings are willing to make this concession and to cater to the separate self that we seem to be. And these are beautiful traditions. I mean no criticism of them. But I intuit that most, if not all of you, are here because you have come to the end of that road. Correct me later if I'm wrong. This is not the progressive path, but nor is it the direct path. It's the pathless path. Allow any residue of becoming to subside in being. Allow any residue of longing to subside in love. Thank you.
Move ring closed.
I apologize, excuse me, because we missed the transitional section while we were having technical difficulties. So to begin with, the analogy that he was using to try and tie this together for you is that the spaciousness that exists, even though we look at the room and we say the room is cut off from the spaciousness, it's not cut off from the spaciousness. There's no qualitative difference between the spaciousness that's in this room, the spaciousness that's outside it, the spaciousness that exists in space. It's all the same space. So what is it that keeps us from experiencing that sense of connection, that sense of continuity with everything else that exists? And I like his analogy that our brains have become so stained with the monkey mind, so habituated to creating and hardening against our experience by needing to jump into thought, to needing to jump into action, to needing to jump into some kind of emotion, that we can't sit still long enough to allow those processes to quiet down and become comfortable with something like silence. So how many of you, and here the experience, the medium was the message, to go back to Marshall McLuhan back in the 70s, how many of you found yourself becoming uncomfortable with the extended period of silence and wanting it to go somewhere, wanting it to do something? Okay? Even at the same time that he's giving us cues to let go of trying to do anything as being the key to connecting with this thing that we're longing for. Did anybody have that experience? Okay. No.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Woody, I know Linnell did. Any of the rest of you? Okay.
I don't know. Say the experience one more time. Well, I mean,
Okay. I didn't hear the second part, Matthew.
well, I was trying to say, you asked if we had that experience, and I was trying to understand the experience you were asking us that if we had.
There was an uncomfortableness with the silence.
Mm.
There was
The
hard
amount of silence,
the
the
extended
length
period of
of it.
silence. Yeah.
I don't know. I like it. I mean, I mean, sort of. I mean, there's always. I mean, I'm in a body and a mind, so there's always some uncomfortableness with it, but not any more than. So I guess yes, but it's not what I would have described it as. I don't know really.
Okay. Woody?
I was a lot more comfortable with it this time than I was the first time I
Okay.
heard this person. So, it's kind of getting into his cadence. And I absolutely loved the analogy with the dish rag.
Right.
I mean, my pea brain could get that and the washing machine and everything. I loved that analogy and the stains and yeah. But then he said something, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It says, I can't remember, so I can't tell you because I thought, oh, I have to remember so I could ask Bart about that. But now I can't remember, so can't ask you.
Okay.
I
So,
like the dish rag thing too. That was helpful. It kind of gave it a purpose instead of I just always, as many 5 years as you told us what we're doing here, that was help. Another helpful purpose of sitting. I was like, oh, this is actually doing something.
Yeah.
We're soaking.
We're soaking.
Right, in bleach, or we use vinegar, so has the same effect. Okay, so on Saturdays, we're doing a lot of stuff on the neuroscience of the brain, and part of what's going on in terms of consciousness is that sense that our brains are a tuner that receive a signal rather than being something that's generating a signal. And so, and I've used the analogy of a radio, that a radio there, you look at our room and there are all kinds of radio signals coming through. There's ultraviolet rays, infrared, gamma rays, all kinds of information coming through as vibrational energy, of which our brains can only receive a part. So with the brain, you can only get so far with picking up the signals that are out there. And those signals are being conditioned by your experience. The more we get wounded, the more our receiver shifts towards trying to control things, because we get into the amygdala, into the traumatized part of the brain. So there builds up over years this resistance to simply being. Okay. And yet there's a part of us, and this is what mystics are saying, is that even though we've lived in this room, in this space, that when we quit focusing on the walls, when we quit focusing on the things that we've constructed to keep ourselves separated, that we go back to the unitive consciousness that existed prior to our being in bodies. In other words, what happens when we die? Do you really think awareness stops when you die? No, any more than your consciousness started when you were born. When you were born, you don't have a memory of being born, do you? No, there's a certain point where the mind reaches enough conditioning, enough complexity, enough myelinization, and all the processes that enable us to be consciously aware of our surroundings. The tuner gets dialed in enough to become curious about its world. What happens in that prior state in the womb? We have some residue of awareness there. Learning actually starts in the womb. We have no consciousness of it, though. So the understanding is that we dissolve back into that awareness that is not aware of itself yet as something separate from everything else that is. Those of you who studied psychology know that it takes a while before the child is aware of itself as something separate from the mother's breast. Not a happy day for most of us, because that begins the separation anxiety that I'm now disconnected and unplugged from the source of my being. Well, the breast never was the source of my being. But it seems that when I connect with this, it resolves the anxiety and tension that keeps me from experiencing a sense of at oneness. So when I'm back being held and I'm back being nurtured, I relax back into simply being rather than striving to attain something that I know as essential to my feeling of at oneness. Does that make any sense to people? And that's why when there's so much in being held and being touched and feeling that physical safety with another person, that helps begin to prime us back into simply allowing ourselves to be. So I found that cue, of what is there to do? Nothing. Yeah. everything in me is hardwired not to be able to follow that. Does that make sense? We live, that's why I keep going back to the Protestant work ethic. Idle hands are the hands of the devil. An idle mind is the devil's workshop. Keep your shoulder to the
Nose
wheel,
to
your
the
nose to the grindstone. What did you accomplish today? What do you do? Defining yourself in terms of your work. This idea of simply dissolving into the process that is life and letting go of any control or any need to be accountable is totally alien to most of us if we get down to the core of it. The ego really doesn't like that at all. Has a pretty strong pushback. And I love the song Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For by U2. I mean, it is, and if you haven't seen Playing for Change version of that, Playing for Change is an amazing group that takes hit songs and takes musicians from all over the world and syncs them into one song. Amazing, amazing version of that song. And that to me is the polarity that we swing between. We swing between that longing and then for just brief moments when the self forgets itself, like out at the ocean or out on a mountaintop where you've been silent for a while, there's going to be a moment of self-forgetfulness. And that's what we don't realize, is that we've had those moments, but when we have those moments, we're not aware of it. When I had my mystical experience, there was no awareness of my body. There was no awareness of the passage of time. There was simply, it started, and then 3.5 hours later, I was back in the real world. What happened in there in terms of the connection and the flow of life was like being in one of those energy toruses that you see. It's like a donut where there's energy coming in from the bottom, spewing out the top, then cycling back around like a magnetic field and doing this sense of energy, but the energy was just like grainy stuff on a TV that hadn't got a solid signal. There was no reality, there was no color, there was no body, there was no physicality, there was simply energy flow. And in that, how can you come back and have a recording of how I perceived that? Because I did not perceive that. I don't know another way to explain that. So there was a very definite transition point between me realizing I was having a very powerful experience and me not being there at all. And that's why the ego gets scared. It does not want to dissolve into a place where it doesn't exist. It has no reality. And once you begin to do that, you lose your fear of death because you've experienced deathlessness, death of the ego. The ego is the thing that's afraid of dying. It can't conceive of not existing. That's why we invented heaven, so that I can continue to endure forever and everything that I love will continue to endure forever. That's its agenda. Spirituality's agenda is totally different. I want to let go of this thing and see that as an obstacle to my being at peace forever. But there's no angels and singing hallelujahs to the God. I thought that, God, I do not want to go to Christian heaven. Shoot me if I show up there. That sounds like the most boring place in the world. So I'm throwing stuff out there. Anybody got any response? Any?
I do, but does anybody else? 'Cause I'll talk a lot. I'll let somebody else go. Looks like Tom's ready.
Go, Matthew.
Go, Matthew. It's your birthday. Go, Matthew.
It's your birthday.
What is difficult is it seems like there's two different dimensions. The dimension you're describing, the spirit, and the dimension of the mind body, which I, for today, might call them tools. And when we did the meditation, it was pretty profound. It was more relaxing. It was more, see, it's happening right now. It's more of a relief because I'm not in the dimension of, as you say, the Protestant work ethic and using those tools, the tools of the mind and the body.
Right.
So it's the paradox of living in two different bodies, the spiritual body and the mortal body. And my struggle, step two is came to believe a power greater than you can restore you to sanity. My struggle with the faith part of it is it seems impossible to get my spiritual dimension, like my spiritual body, my tools, to be present to do accounting work. Do you see what I mean? Like I still like it's like okay, to go fix let's forget accounting, to go fix an egg, I have to pick up those painful tools of the mind and body instead of picking up, theoretically, we might say we're teaching this new dimension of the spirit to make an egg instead of using the tools of my mind and body to make an egg. Does that make any sense to what you were saying?
Okay. So what you have to watch, Matthew, is you're creating a dualism.
Yeah.
And he started out by saying there's no dualism. You're already that which you're seeking compressed and contracted into a physical sense. Okay. So
Yeah.
their sense is that every step down that we contract, the more physical we appear, but we're still energy. All right, the physical body is still the energetic body. There's no dualism to where there's a material thing. So it's hard to let go of that Christian thinking that cooking an egg is not something that the universe is doing through you.
That's helpful information because that's why it seems so, with the dualism, it seems impossible. Because it's like,
Right.
oh, as soon as I get off my mat, my spirit body it's there. I know it's always there, but I can't touch it. I can't feel it.
Okay.
I'm back in the other body.
Right. And that's what he means by the blocks that our conceptualization make in terms of our capacity. Because the minute, it's like the thing we're discovering in neuroscience. If you say, I can't do this to yourself all the time, that becomes your reality.
Yeah.
No part going outside of it. So if I say I can't be experiencing the spiritual and the energetic in the physical activity, I've set a limit that becomes my reality.
Yeah. I believe that.
Okay. So what you have to understand when you look at a Zen Buddhist, for example, they say, what did you do after you became enlightened? And what's the answer?
Chop wood, carry water.
Would carry water. Exactly. They're not two different things.
Yeah.
I encourage anyone who hasn't seen this, I wish we could do it as a group. I just don't know the technology. Look up Chef's Table.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've seen it, but I'll watch it again.
And one of their earliest episodes it's called Temple Food. And it's a Korean Buddhist nun. She tells her story, and you're sitting watching her go through her daily routine, and she cooks with total mindfulness. She plants with total mindfulness. She walks through a door. She gets her head shaved. She is fully present and fully gracefully in the flow. There's no sense of struggle in any of her movements. To learn more about mindfulness, this woman, than any book that you can read that I can direct. So, there's a poem by Anne Sexton, and I can't remember the name of it, but she says, God, who is all spirit, envies us our bodies. He would like nothing more to take a good hot bath and smoke a good cigar. And I love that I am the sacred experiencing this through me. Okay. that the myths say that God created this stuff to have a sense, enough friction to have experience. That when there's simply the oneness, there's no experience. There's nothing to experience. There's nothing outside of itself. So that very beginning of tension, that's why it's all about the oscillation of energy, the ups and downs and the frictions that generate consciousness. It's not something to be eliminated. It's simply a playing ground and a field for remembering. Okay, oh, because of the friction, I'm now aware. Notice how when your foot hurts, you're very much aware of your body. It's something separate. Whereas the minute you get into the flow of your meditation, your foot isn't there to hurt. The friction brings you into the experience. Here, it's too easy to la around, float around, go unconscious again. So we're looking at a very subtle, very nuanced thing without saying this experience is preferable to this experience. Meditation is not preferable to doing the dishes. There's one of the Hakuin, I think, wrote a book on instructions to the cook. And the number 2 person in a Zen monastery is the cook. First is the abbot, then the cook. And that process of creating the meal for the community, using the resources, bringing them together is considered to be one of the most skillful things that a monk can do. So our kind of hierarchy of values that we developed in the West are very much out of line with the idea that there's, we think that the monastic life, because our Western spiritualities came out of the Desert Fathers, which were extremely ascetic, and you have to remove yourself from the sensual world and all the ideas that only cloistered nuns and cloistered brothers could spend enough time devoting themselves to God to have a spiritual experience. We have defined spirituality as something outside and other than being in the sensual world, which is why I keep saying to you, come to your senses. It's when you're in your senses that you're experiencing your energetic body at wanting with the energies of the universe. It's not something different. There's not 2 different energies there. There's not my energy and that energy. It's the same energy creating this sensual experience of color, of sound, of touch, of movement, all these things that we're experiencing. Because we define it as not being spiritual, well, guess what? It's not. But
that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a good point.
Prophecy. So when you get into the Radiant Sutra and it says delight, where your senses meet the energy of light, that's it. That's it. Delight in the way the energy moves through you. Ride the currents. It's a banquet out there, folks. And we're living right on the edge. Spirituality is extremely sensual. The more you're in touch with your senses, the more you soften to receive, the more you get, the more connected you are. Like with your lover. You don't want to wear your pajamas when you're making love. You want to wrap the covers around you. You got to strip down as much as you can. You want to feel as much as you can, emotionally, mentally, physically, not something different.
Well, I wouldn't believe it except I see a person, you and Linnell, who, embody, you know what I mean? Like if I read that in the book, I mean, like, oh, maybe, but it's like when you sit in an AA meeting and people are like, you can be sober. You can't really refute it because they're all sober.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like looking at you and Linnell and how you live. Because y'all know I lived with Bart for a year, and he lives like he's talking. He lives like that lady in the monastery.
Sweet. You're trying to be my
Tom.
favorite.
Well, I mean, you
I'm
can't
right
be.
with you, Matthew.
No, no, no. I'm not taking offense to that. I just mean like I wouldn't believe it unless I saw it.
Well, thank you. That's the highest compliment I could get. Thank you. Tommy?
I don't want to be a downer, but I didn't get a lot out of Watts today.
Okay.
Um, it seems to me that if I'm supposed to feel enlightened by some realization that the space in this room doesn't differ from the universe because it is the universe, that's not an enlightenment I need Alan Watts to tell me.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
Rupert.
This is Rupert Spira,
Yeah.
not Alan.
Rupert Spirit.
Right.
Okay, well, I don't need him. He's not enlightening me. And I also didn't get a lot out of his assertion, which I maintain is only his assertion, that everyone in the world has an innate dissatisfaction that they're striving to get out of.
Alone.
I mean, that may be true for a lot of people, but he is making a generalization that the universe is filled with people, only people who are dissatisfied and, striving for enlightenment. Well, being in the universe. I'm sorry, but I don't get a lot out of that.
He's not a teacher for you then, Tommy. That's all you're saying.
Yeah, he isn't, that's for sure.
Okay. So
No.
what I'd encourage you to hear was his statement that there are other teachers who teach things different than this. And I have nothing to say bad about them, that there's a place for them. So when you begin to understand the way that mystical thought or spiritual teaching is taught, there are people who are very comfortable with dualism. They're very comfortable with having meaning outside of themselves and wanting to have a relationship with it. There are two traditions. The one of theism says, why do I want to be sugar when I can taste sugar? I don't want to get rid of my, I want to have the experience of tasting, okay? So what he's saying, if in the setup, he said, if you're one of those people who's tried for years through traditional forms of religion and still feel dissatisfied, this might be why you feel dissatisfied. So
Okay.
he simply wasn't talking to you. He was talking to people who have been frustrated by the song, still haven't found what I'm looking for. And models don't work for me. Well, here's another model. And so we're just exploring some of the unitary models in Adyashanti and in Zen Buddhism and not even in all Zen Buddhism, but you're always going to have two schools, one of which is dualistic and one of which is non-dualistic. It doesn't matter whether it's, you'll find it in Christianity, you'll find it in Judaism, you'll find it in Hinduism, Buddhism, you name it, and you will find that separation. And that's, to me, just again, a difference in temperament, not really an argument with each other, but simply your path is different from my path. And
Sure.
And here's a path that you can follow. So we're just exploring paths for people who've said, well, I've tried these other things. Now I'm going to try this.
And, I've gotten more out of other things by Rupert Spira. He's done some amazing guided meditations that we've listened to. This one was just really different.
Yeah, the title.
I'm not uncomfortable with the time of the meditation or meditating itself for that length and getting into it from that standpoint.
Well, I'm
It's
realizing
it's just his messages were not resonating with me.
for you.
Yeah,
That's all
that's
you need
fair
to
enough.
say. Yep. So let's go ahead and close. Thank you all for your time. We'll let you know. I think what we need to do is we need to listen to these things so we know what's coming.
All the way through,
Because
yeah.
this was not, it started out with something we thought was going to be good, but that I think probably was a little challenging for people. So,
Okay,
okay,
okay.
one round
One
home
round of home.
and we'll all go eat.
Deep breath in.
And I sure loved that hockey game this morning.
Have they, are the closing ceremonies this evening or we?
I
They
don't
were,
know yet. I
I
have
think they
them.
were this afternoon.
I think I have them recorded, but
They'll show it tonight.
yeah.
We all have a great week and
I
we'll see
know.
you next Saturday.
Thanks, Bart.
Thank
Whenever.
you.
Love you.
See y'all later.
Take
Great
care.
Olympic